And so we'll deal with that. But we just spent 6 minutes talking about the Browns on Guardians opening day, the one franchise in this city that gives us eternal hope despite the fact that they do not spend a single dollar in things that matter. Guys, it is finally here. The offseason is over. A 10-10 first pitch tonight against the Seattle Mariners. You mentioned the joy of doing this job, Jason, and you're the one that covers the Guardians more than Earl and Zach on a day-to-day basis. Do you still get butterflies and goosebumps about opening day? Does it still have the same excitement it once did for you back in the day?
Not because of the Guardians, just because of what it represents, that spring is here. Hopefully we only have to use a snowblower 5 more times. And that was a joke. And
I'll take the over 5. I was taking the over 2. I was definitely taking the over.
But like good things are like summer's almost here. Like you can see it coming. And so that gets me excited, and all that goes on with it, with youth sports and with just life in general. Everything opens back up in the summertime in Cleveland. It's great. Do I get excited about the Guardians specifically? Not necessarily, just because, I would consider them a long shot to win the World Series if I thought that they were a legitimate top 3 contender to win the World Series. I think people in Detroit are really excited about today because I think Detroit thinks they got a legitimate chance to win the World Series with their starting rotation with that lineup that they have. But, this is a high-functioning franchise that always operates well, usually makes more right decisions than wrong, and it's a fun time at the ballpark. So I don't know. You were probably hoping for a more happy, joyous answer from me, but you should know better.
No, I knew who I asked. And I want to ask Earl next because he is a baseball guy through and through. He grew up playing baseball. Of all the teams, I think Earl still has as much fandom for the Cleveland baseball team as he has for any other teams that haven't caused him as much pain as the Browns have. So, Earl, do you still get the butterflies and the goosebumps when the Guardians are playing real legitimate baseball, game 1 of 162?
1,000%. Absolutely I do, man. I'm a fan at heart. I'm a Clevelander at heart, and I grew up in the 90s. So I grew up in an era to where the Indians were always good.
You could not get a ticket into that stadium.
For me, this is when my mother let me stay up in 95 to watch the World Series. She let me stay up again in 97 the World Series. Then I got a whooping for crying like I lost something when we lost. She let me know, you not out there. They ain't paying no bills. But yeah, I do. Even though I'm not a diehard baseball fan, I love my home team. And I still love the sport of baseball. And it's something about baseball that gets an element of anxiousness that you really don't get from the other sports, to where you really live and die on each pitch, especially if it's a close game or situations to where you can't even turn your head and take a sip of your drink, or you might miss something that might be a monumental moment. And for me, I have learned, at least in this early Stephen Vogt era, to never count this baseball team out. Yeah. And I learned that last year when they were far behind, and I'm looking at Stephen Vogt, and he's still saying all these things to where I view as crazy to the media about how he still believes. Well, that message was infectious. Yeah. And they ended up making a run that got us excited in the city of Cleveland. Didn't end the way that we all wanted to end, but knowing that this franchise don't spend money, but somehow, some way, they found a way to get it out the mud every single year, it always gets me excited because I know it's going to be this up and down roller coaster ride of emotions through the summer. I'm going to attend some games, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to get frustrated, and hopefully when we get to September, we're talking about another playoff run.
Before you go, Zach, I should say, much like you, baseball was the sport I grew up on. I was a massive Indians fan as a kid before my heart turned black and my soul left my body. In 97, I was in college. I was at Kent for the World Series, and I was still stringing for a paper in Lorraine, the Morning Journal. So they sent me to all the home playoff games. I don't think I went to one class the entire month of October. And I didn't have a great reason for it, other than I didn't feel like going to class because I was covering home games. I wasn't going on the road, but just all the home playoff games, I was there. And I remember they lost the series, obviously on the road in Game 7, and I was laying on my parents' couch, my parents' house, watching the game, and I remember thinking, man, I got to go to class next week. And needless to say, I think my GPA that first semester, that fall semester at Kent, was like a 1.7 because I just never went to class the whole month of October.
5th grade, and I just remember being at the bus stop with my friends.
You were in 5th grade? Yeah. And I was a junior in college?
I was in 5th grade.
Oh, shut up! Nobody asked you. And screaming from the back, I wasn't born yet.
I was in 5th grade, and I just remember crying like a baby. like crying like a baby. I just remember being so devastated. And those was only those moments to where my mother let me stay up late on a school night. And I just felt like, listening to my dad and my uncles, man, the Marlins can't mess with us. This gonna be the year we get it done. Yeah. And it's just like we didn't get it done.
Baseball's a game of numbers. There's nothing wrong with a 1.7.
Right?
You had an
That's
excuse.
an ERA.
You had an excuse for it.
And the sad part is I was like on the dean's list of my friends, of being all my friends. I had the highest GPA of everybody.
Yeah, so I will say this. As you guys know, I want a lot of things and a lot of people off my lawn. And I want opening day being at 10 p.m. local time all the way off my lawn. Right?
Yes.
I want it to be opening day. I want baseball at 1 p.m.
No game should be allowed on the West Coast to start past 4 p.m.
That's facts.
Right.
None.
That is facts.
None.
And that's before, that's nostalgic, right? But that's before you get to even the discussion about 162 is a lot.
Yeah.
So baseball only has certain windows where it's really going to grab you. So why wouldn't opening day be one of those, right? I understand Paul Skeens is on at 1:15 today, right? But opening day is what people relate to baseball.
Yes.
Day.
It's not opening night. It's
agree.
Opening day.
I agree. NBA has opening night.
Yeah.
NFL has opening night that
Yeah.
they've now stretched into a 3-week adventure over
Yeah,
9
they did.
continents, right? But opening day is baseball. That said, there is magic in baseball to me, right? It's your childhood memories. For me, it's my grandmother who never missed a game. Even when she came to our game, she had this little silver ring. She always had it. She knew every player. She cussed them all, right? She lived through it all, years and years and years of bad baseball. And then in 2016, they got really close. She was still alive. That's who I wanted it for. But I agree, Earl. You relate it to where were you on TV?
Yeah.
Who was with you when you went to that game? Right?
Yeah.
And even though there was a lot of bad teams, you remember standing out in left field who was playing that day, right? You remember if they were down 8-2 and came back and won. And for me, with kids now, one especially who's a big baseball fan has been brought back. And we're rooting for Travis Bazzana because a couple years ago we got the opportunity to go down to the Super Regionals NCAA in Kentucky. It was Travis Bazzana's last college game. 3 weeks later, he got drafted by the Guardians. So we're rooting for him because we saw him play, up close. But I'm excited. I think you mentioned it. Culturally, this organization does things right. They have their way.
Right.
People don't love it. It hasn't resulted in the big trophy. They have their way. So we're expecting competitiveness. We're expecting results. Eventually, we'll see if they can hit the baseball. And how the summer goes. 162 is a long time.
Well, that brings us right to the next part of this topic. And we're going to cover the Guardians all day. We got 2 topics coming up later in the show on the Guardians. We got Zach joining us at 11:30 from Seattle, who's out there covering the game. But, Jason, when you look at this Guardians team, last week we said if everything went right, could they win a World Series? So in your mind, we know everything's not going to go right because that never happens in sports. What is a successful season this year for the Guardians? What does success look like for this team coming off back-to-back AL Central championships?
I mean, Steve Vogt says win the World Series.
I'm about to say that.
And I love that. I love that your manager doesn't run from that. It doesn't matter what the payroll is. It doesn't matter who you have or who's missing. This is the goal and this is the task at hand. I think realistically, what's a successful season? Reach the postseason. If you advance to the ALCS, surely I don't know how you can look at that as a not successful season, particularly when you look at the age of this roster. I was going to throw out 90 wins because it seems like this team always wins 90 games. I saw a graphic yesterday about
the
different
tiers.
Yeah, somehow win 90.
I saw that too. That was very fun.
Right? You
Very
pull
fun.
that up if you can find it. I don't know how.
It had the AL East at the top. Then it had 2 other teams, and then the Guardians
Somehow
will win 90 games.
If you ask any random baseball fan, not like the Bull and the me and the Jays of the world that play fantasy baseball and live and breathe this stuff, but go ask a fan in St. Louis. Name 3 players on the Cleveland Guardians not named Jose Ramirez. Could they do it? Probably not.
Probably not.
But yet somehow you look up in the playoffs and every year, or not every year, but most years, they're right there. So, make the playoffs, advance to the ALCS. Surely, to me, that's a successful season. Obviously, you want to win the whole thing. They would not be in my top 3 or 5 teams. Mike, your question, if everything breaks perfectly for them, could they win it? Yeah, there it is. There it is. If everything breaks perfectly for them, could they win the World Series? Yeah, I would go along and play ball with that. But, as you said, how often does that happen in life? So they would not be one of my favorites to win it. But I love baseball. I love the sport. I love the game. Looking forward to a good season.
Yeah, same here. I think you framed it perfectly. Make the postseason. I was going to say at first just win a division, but I think the Detroit Tigers is serious and they confident in their baseball team this year. if the Guardians somehow, some way find a way to make the postseason, at that point, all bets are off and anything can happen. You know, that's a realistic answer.
Right.
We all want this to end in the World Series. Mike, I hate to put you on a spot here, but if you can find today's opening day lineup, I think why just the postseason is realistic, because even if you look at this lineup, Jason told me, I think last week, that he looked at this 1 through 9, and it looks like a MLB 1 through 9. Even with that said, Jose Ramirez is still the only proven thing that's consistently in that lineup. And so, you know, it's going to be a lot of projection, a lot of different conversations all season long. And if some of these guys pan itself out and they are hot at the right time, anything can happen. But, like, a successful season for this team is making the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive year.
Well, it's
Lineup's not out yet, just a heads up.
Yeah, it's
They have
because
not
it's a
set
7:00 game. It won't be out till
That's
second.
right.
It's
a forever
can they
game.
hit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, last year they did make the postseason, but they were tied for last in the entire league in batting average.
Yeah.
They were 28th in runs scored, not even averaging 4 a game. That's not supposed to happen. So, yeah, we do feel like confidently we're supposed to make it, right? What is this organization built on? Pitching development, pitching identification, you know, being good enough to weather the long storms and the times you don't score runs, but they got to score runs. So we're looking at young guys to come in and provide a boost, and starting tonight, you know, we'll see how that goes.
Tanner Bybee against Logan Gilbert tonight in the opener, right? Obviously, Bybee, we talked about it before. He was supposed to get the start last year. Food poisoning knocked him down. So hopefully he had cereal yesterday for dinner, maybe some nice salad.
Yeah.
Listen, Mariners have one of the best rotations in baseball, certainly in the American League. They're a pitching factory, much like Cleveland. They know how to draft and develop young starters, and Logan Gilbert is at the top of that list. They do have some injuries. Bryce Miller's out with an oblique, so they're not 100% for the series. But should be a great pitching matchup. Should be a great series. And we talked about before, this is a heck of a start to the season for Cleveland. They get to go to LA from here. So you're running into the fire right out of the gate.
The Mariners, right? They had the strife with the World Baseball Classic where the guys were going at each other.
Cal Raleigh and Arozarena, yeah.
I had no problem with it, with the fact that Raleigh, like when Kobe ran through Pau Gasol and took the soul from his body, everybody thought that was great. But people are gonna get up in arms because Cal won't bump fist with Arozarena. Come on, man.
I think Bybee should go high and inside on somebody and see if they clear. If the Mariners are going to fight the Guardians or each other.
See if they bout it. I'm looking forward to seeing Tanner Bybee pitch. You know, last year was just a rough year from him, literally from the night before on. And I thought about this. You know, I've been watching the Last Dance documentary back, right? And I don't know how much time Carl Willis has left. But if I'm Carl Willis, man, I'm getting my rotation together, and I'm labeling this the Last Dance. And if I'm Tanner, if I'm Gavin, if I'm Parker, if I'm the rest of those guys, let's make it one of these years, man, to possibly send Carl Willis out with a positive salute. So
That would be awesome.